So it is that is something which occurs sort of uncertain time and which cannot be sort of reversed. So when the real time of the death comes, then there's one can't use any means to reverse it. For example, there's no way, one can't use force or power or strength or medicine or wealth or anything. We can't postpone it, or we can't reverse it when the real time of the death comes. Even if somebody is very healthy, has no sickness and so on, when the real time of the death comes, he can still die with certain circumstance, unexpectedly, although his body is free from any diseases. So, so in general, there are plenty of causes for our death. There are animate or inanimate causes, such as human beings, the animate the causes like human beings, animals, and enemies, for example, and even sometimes friends, sometimes relatives or anything. There's no real certainty about it, and so which happens very frequently, that people killing each other, and which we see always in the newspaper, and all those sensational news. If we know how to sort of read this kind of news, then they are not only just a sensational news. Even those can become also a very good teaching for us about to understand the value of samsara and how the samsara really functions, and this can also benefit and contribute for our understanding of or conviction of the Dharma. And like that, there are many causes of death, animate causes of death, and then there are also plentiful of inanimate natural disasters and different elements, and also the natural cause of disease within our body, and so on. So there are a lot of causes and circumstances for our death. So even the so-called sustenance for our life, for a living, can also change to a circumstance to cause death instead. For example, our the food and also the place and also for the wealth and all these are supposed to be a sustenance for life, for our living. But for example, there are a lot of people who die because of their wealth, because of their wealth, and they they produce many enemies, and then they attract thieves and robbers and gangsters and so on. This way they lose their life and so on. So even the so-called the very sustenance for the life can also often transform into change into a real cause for the death. So usually we fear thieves and robbers. That we know how to fear thieves and robbers. We fear that maybe they will kill us or something. That we know, but we don't know that the real cause of that death, the real cause of that fear, is with oneself. That is one's own wealth and the money and so on that we keep. The real cause of the death, real cause of the danger. That we are ignorant. We don't see that. We see only the danger of the thief and what they may, and the kind of harm that they may bring. But the real cause of the harm is keeping by oneself. So usually we with our the wrong view of permanence, we believe that we are going to live for a long time, so as if we are sort of everlasting. So with this view in the mind, then we collect and we keep on collecting and collecting lots of things and material possessions and so on. So supposed to be for the benefit of for our life. And so these gradually, when we have collected very much more than we need, then they become a very heavy load, and then they become a real cause of danger for us, and then we would have to spend or constantly spend time defending how to defend these, and these can then can become a cause of even one's death, and so on. So therefore, we should realize the real value of these things, and thus we should not rely completely upon those things. So, for example, for our living, for the sake of our living, we construct building of house and so on. But it happens so many times that the house is collapsed, or the house is burned, or someone slips, on through over the stair, and then or falls down from the window, and thus cause again a real problem to the owner. And also all the means of transportation that which we also supposed to be a means to make our life easier and better and easier, but as we know very well, these very means can be very dangerous and are causing countless death to so many people every day. And for example, which I was giving example of the planes crashing and the boat sinking into the ocean, and the bicycle bumping into the electric or into a car and thus breaking one's leg, or if not dead, then breaking one's leg, arms, or head, nose, anything. And motorcycles especially very dangerous. And then cars, there are frequent accidents, and the ambulance running around and so on. So this kind so all these means facilities for the life can also become a cause for the death and to shorten one's life. So these are things which occurs all the time to other people, and we have no any separate guarantee that such things won't occur to ourselves. In the same way, for example, taking medicines for to maintain our health, and then also to wear clothes, and to eat foods, and to prepare a good seat, bed, and so on. All these are supposed to be sustenance for our life. And but it happens often that by taking the medicine in a wrong way, or taking the wrong medicine, can cause real danger or some great harm in oneself, or sometimes an operation is done wrongly that which shortens the life, and so on. So these the methods of these means to maintain our health and life can also have the possibility to change into a negative circumstance. As well, the food, although food is the main thing to maintain our life, but a great number of the people who die
they die because of eating something wrong, or the cause of the primary cause of their disease is something related to the food, what they have eaten. And in the same way, clothes and ornaments and all these kind of things can also bring danger, cause jealousy in others, and also cause a lot of effort in order to get these, and so on. So all these kind of facilities are not an ultimate facility for the life. Indestructible while it is living. If it is something really strong and indestructible, sort of indestructible, then one can one has more security or more insurance about one's life. But as we know very well with one's own experience, in fact, this body is it exists with a very delicate and it has a very delicate mechanism, and it's a very fragile. It exists with a very fragile nature. So any little thing can cause a great disturbance. So Rinpoche says he has seen two people in India who have died because whose primary cause of the death is that he had some like a pimple or something somewhere, and it was squeezing it and so on, and then after it became infected and so on, and it led finally to the death. It happened two times like that. So it is a little thing like that can cause a big danger. So as it is very common that that very unexpectedly somebody dies, although that person was still young or healthy or strong, but then unexpectedly the death occurs all of a sudden, and which is very surprising or very shocking news for everybody. So it is certain, sooner or later, that we also will face this situation, which the same situation, which will be sort of taken by other people with some kind of sadness or sort of a pity feeling. Although we always hope to live for a long time, and at least till the next day, but in fact we have not real guarantee. To be honest, we can't really sign, give any signature really that one will live for sure till the next day.
So although we all know that um, one will die sometime, but we are but we still hope. We have always keep this wrong hope of living at least for still for another day or another month or a year like that. And with this wrong hope, then we always postpone the important um, the important thing that we must do. We always postpone at least for a few days or years to begin to practice Dharma. So we must meditate, contemplate in this way with various reasons. We must contemplate and train the mind until we get a full conviction about the impermanence and the uncertainty of the impermanence, until we become constant mindful of the impermanence, of the death. So, so the purpose of developing this mindfulness of the death is not in order to it's not in order to cause just fear into you, or just to scare oneself, or to cause fear into you, and to remain always fearful is not the goal of the practice. And there's no real benefit, no real use of just being afraid of the death all the time. But the purpose of it is to meditate on it, is to by realizing this uncertainty of our life, then to put all our time in the practice of Dharma without postponing, to immediately to begin and to put into practice, and try to work as much as one can, so that when sooner or later, when we depart from this life, we live with a complete content, at least a content mind, with a state of mind without regret and with contentment, as if somebody is returning to his own home. So even if we even if we can't develop, or even if we cannot die with really a mind with full of happiness and contentment, at least the minimum sort of progress we must make in this life is to die without any regret. That is the lowest sort of progress. Yes, and at least to depart without hesitation, without any hesitation. So a good practitioner of Dharma should die with a happy state of mind, happily dying, joyfully dying, and the medium practitioner of Dharma should die without a regret, with a confident mind, without regret, and the lowest practitioner of Dharma should die without hesitation. So when somebody reaches to the point which is that one is one has been given up by doctors and so on, and one is certain that is one is going to die. If instead of worrying and instead of suffering of it, if one generates great happiness and joy in the mind by foreseeing a very favorable like a future, then that is the best. And secondly, one dies without a regret, because one has done what one could in one's life. So there's no more regret that I should have done this or that, and so on. And also the time, still the little bit of time left to spend it in the practice of Dharma, in meditation, in prayer and meditation to the Guru and so on. That is the medium. So also not only at the time of the death, but even from now, while we're still living, it is very beneficial to to meditate and to think that to be mindfulness of the death, to be mindful of the death. That if, for example, if although one is well and healthy and with nothing, with no damage, nothing, but maybe the next day or something, if one has a car accident or any other kind of accidents or anything like this, one could still very easily pass away. So with this mindful, one sort of with this precautious in the mind, then try always to put one's mind in the practice of Dharma. And if one does this, then it will be very beneficial. If we do it all the time, it's very beneficial, because that will purify one's thoughts and actions. And if we are precautious about it, then we would be conscientious in one's thoughts and actions, and automatically, naturally, the practice of Dharma would come. If this mindfulness is lacking completely, then one would spend one's life doing all sorts of crazy things, completely invaluable crazy things, and causing lots of troubles and difficulties, troubles to oneself and troubles to others. Thus we spend life in such a way, and at the end, when the end comes, then one will be in a total confusion and much regret and suffering and fear and worry. But then it's too late. It's too late to mend. So that was a brief teaching on impermanence, and although Rinpoche said that we have he taught a little bit over time, but you can't stop just anywhere like that. It is not like ordinary work. Ordinary work, when the time comes, we can immediately stop wherever we are. But teaching of Dharma is not like that. So, and also, plus the translation, it takes some time. So, excuse him for that. So, without cultivating one's mind through the practice of Lam Rim, there is no way to enter into the path of the tantra. So now at the moment, like we until now in the past, from childhood until now, we have spent our life, we have spent our time with occupation, with always with ordinary problems or ordinary involvements, and still now we are constantly being occupied with that. So this state of mind, which is only concerned with or only occupied with the problems of this lifetime, must be changed, and changed to a state of mind which is which sees far in the future and which works for the benefit of the future. And this does not arise or come sort of naturally or easily in our mind. So therefore we must train our mind. We must make the effort to train our mind to bring about such a transformation. That's why the training of the mind is necessary. So with lack of understanding of the precious human rebirth which we have obtained now, as well as the impermanence, the uncertainty of the death and so on, with lack of these important understandings, then we make no effort to practice Dharma sincerely. So to understand the value of this rebirth does not mean just to think always what a precious body I have, and just to cherish this thought. That is not the meaning of it. To hold one's own body as something very precious is not great superior intelligence of the human being. Even the small insects, they also feel in the same way. They naturally think they're their own body or exist. They grasp very strongly to it, and they try to defend it by all means. So, understanding the true value of this body is to um, is to know the distinguished quality, or the distinguished the value of this body, with which we can fulfill not only the goals of this lifetime but also for the future, and to attain, for example, to attain liberation or full enlightenment can be achieved through such a body, and that is the real preciousness, the greatness about this body. But other than that, to hold it very precious and cling very strongly to it is kind of attachment to one's own body. So the capacity of this body, which can accomplish all the ordinary mundane goals in this lifetime, such as wealth, position, and so on, that is not the kind of value that we are seeking. So, and also to destroy one's enemy, and to help and protect one's friends or dear ones. That's also not a distinguished quality of human beings. Even animals, even a dog, can do the same thing. They to protect its own himself and its own puppies and so on, and to fight with enemies, to bite them and so on. So in that respect, actually, sometimes animals are superior to us, because human beings, even how strong he is or how powerful he may be, but if he wants to fight with an enemy or destroy somebody, then he's always dependent to some kind of weapon. First he must acquire a gun or a knife, at least a knife or something like that, without which he can't do very much. But many animals are they are completely independent to harm or destroy somebody, like tigers and so on. They don't need knife, gun or anything like that. They have everything ready. and snakes or anything like that are much more powerful. The human beings, let alone independently, the human the power is in sometimes very limited. Even to catch a mouse, catch a mouse can be a very complicated matter. Rinpoche says he doesn't know what's the size of the rats or mice here in America, but in India, in South India, they are about the size of a pig. In his place in India, once a dead rat weighed about 12 kilos. Over there in South India, somebody wanted to kill a rat, and then he called several people to help him, and guarding from everywhere. At the end, it ended up not the man chasing the rat, but the rat chasing the person. So on that level, human beings are very limited. They are in much more individually. They are much more limited in their capacity than the animals. So at the present, we are human beings walking on two legs, upright, and the animals they are creeping on the ground, or they are walking on four legs plus tails, and so on. So it is. So we are quite different. So so if we think and behave in the same way as those animals who are walking on the four legs and could not practice Dharma, then there wouldn't be any difference, no real great difference left between us. So an animal spend his time always fighting with its own enemies and protecting its own kind, and thus it spends its life, and afterwards there is also not a very favorable future waiting for it. So we also, in the same way, spend the time exactly in the same manner, and do not sort of try to transcend that level and satisfy with the same kind of fulfillment in the life. Then whether we look outwardly in appearance different, but in fact there is no real difference, and as a result the future would also be very similar. So this is the time for us to show some difference, to sort of live up to the status that we have obtained now, and to have obtained a different form, walking on two legs, have no tail, etc. So So, for example, the animals, because of a great ignorance, they are unable to see very far, and also make necessary preparations. And that's a very unfortunate situation of them. And but we are now born as a human being with certain capacity of wisdom, and we can see further than the animals, and we have a certain capacity. So therefore, we should, and we have the capacity to fulfill the temporary and the permanent, the goal to attain a favorable status of rebirth in the future, or ultimately to attain full enlightenment state. We have this possibility and capability we have now, so therefore we must make use of it. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni, fully enlightened Buddha Shakyamuni, before he attained enlightenment, when he was also, at the beginning, there was no difference to us, and in fact we have spent much time together wandering around in the samsara, but he, out of his own effort, generated the bodhicitta, and on the basis of that then developed his mind, and finally attained the state of full enlightenment, and became a real, the ultimate refuge, the protector of all sentient beings. And on the other hand, we are still remaining in the samsara, still cycling in the samsara, and so this is not because he had a different kind of body, or he was a different type of being from the beginning, and we were somewhat different race or a different type of being. There's no difference, but it's all due to the effort he has made, and the practice of dharma that he has developed. So the main cause of our what do you say? We still remain in the samsara with all the problems. It's all because of our laziness and the lack of remembering the impermanence. And so with lack of the remembrance or the mindfulness of the impermanence, then we always we make no preparation for the future, and we only remain completely occupied with the this welfares of this lifetime, and for remaining or for living. And just to from time to time thinking or remembering that one would die someday, that is not enough. That such a thought may occur also to the animals. Animals also try to run away when they see some harm, some danger. If it's walking over cliffs, very careful, very cautious not to fall over the cliff. That is quite that's quite common. So we must meditate by taking all the, for a reason, or taking examples of all the impermanence which occurs around us. We take this as example, as a reason to understand to one's own impermanence, and this way we must meditate and train the mind till we are able to practice the constant mindfulness of it. So when we can practice the mindfulness or the awareness of the impermanence, then we would be very successful to practice Dharma, in practicing Dharma. So when the sooner or later, when the impermanence occurs to us, and when we die from the present life, then there are two ways for us to go. That is to fortunate or unfortunate status of rebirth. So the dying is in a way similar to the process of death. It's in a way similar to the process of sleeping. When we go to sleep, then at first all the senses start to they begin to sleep. They begin to dissolve, absorb inside, and so we don't see anymore, and we don't hear anymore, and the consciousness become more and more absorbed inwardly, become sort of more subtle, and after only the consciousness, the mental consciousness the subtle consciousness remains, and then all the illusions of the dream then start to rise, and and then next morning, then we are awake. Then again, all the other rough consciousnesses, they start to function. That is the process of going to sleep. So in the same way, when we die, when we reach to the last stages of the life, then first all the movements, or the control of the movements of the body disappears, and then gradually all the sense consciousness, they start to dissolute, and so one wouldn't be able to see, to hear, to feel the touch, and so on. So gradually they all dissolve, and then finally we and then after after all these are sort of dissolved, then consciousness, the subtle consciousness, manifests, and it functions, and then after the consciousness completely separates from this present body, then the illusions of the bardo occurs like in the sleep. The dream occurs like that. The illusions of all the various experiences of the bardo stage or intermediate stage occurs, and that passes after some time, and then when the consciousness finds a new body, or rebirth, then it's like again awaking from the sleep. So it's a similar process. And now for somebody who is taking rebirth in the hell realm, then he goes through these stages of the dissolution, the death time, then pass through the intermediate stage, and then awakes from that, and the consciousness is already, by the force of his unwholesome actions of the past, takes birth in the hell environment, and then there occurs sort of a first thought, first consciousness, just to realize that that he is born in, taken birth in the hell realm, and then the whole environment, the great heat of fire and everything, whole environment is a cause to give a great suffering of heat, and so the first thought arises that to realize that he is born in the hell realm, and then after that there's no more any time for thinking, because then it's constantly for years and years, for kalpas, then go through a constant suffering. So because the suffering is so great, there's no more any the being cannot think anymore.